And welcome back to this edition of Monday Night Politics. And we are here at the race for governor for the state of Texas. We have two of the four Democratic challengers for the seat. We have with us Mr. Beto O'Rourke and Mr. Mike Collier here with us tonight. We're going to go. I'm looking right at it. I'm looking right at it. Apologize. And we will go in alphabetical order, as I noted, and we'll have 2 minutes for opening statements and 2 minutes for responses. So, Mr. Cooper, you're first.
Thank you. For the record, again, the name is Michael Cooper, and I am a candidate for governor of this great state of Texas. All my life, I've had to fight. A lot of people don't understand what that means. When you're African American, grow up in Southeast Texas like I did, I had to fight for recognition, position, and then I had to maintain that. And in the automotive industry, I fought for those positions. I fought to make millionaires, multiple millionaires. Once they saw the talent and they saw the fight in me, they realized that not only one group of people, but multiple groups of people can do the job. And that's what I've been fighting for. I've been fighting for your rights. You know what I told my kids what you need to do with a bully? You push back and say no. And we have a bully right now in the governor's mansion. And we're saying no to him. We're saying no to him and all the things that he has done when it comes to voter suppression, calling special sessions, letting horrible bills come through. 666 bills. I was fighting for your rights. Back February 2nd, 2021, I made up my mind, and I had a made-up mind to fight for your rights. I fought against voter suppression from Beaumont, Texas, to Austin, Texas, to Washington, D.C., while I was arrested for women's rights. That's right. There's a thing called a heartbeat bill, and I fought against that, and I was arrested for that. Came back to Beaumont and told everybody, we have a fight on our hand, we have a snake in the grass, and we have to take their head down. And that's how we do it. That's the reason why a lot of my folks in Beaumont, Texas say, well, why not go to school board? Why not become a city council? Why not become a mayor? We don't have time. Time is at hand right now, and we need somebody who's going to show up and fight a bully. I became the president of Southeast Texas Toyota Dealers Association, and guess what? I maintained and got the naming right to the Toyota Center. It is where the Houston Rockets play. We need somebody that's going to think outside the line. We need somebody that's innovative, motivated, and ready to go. My name is Michael Cooper. I am your candidate for governor of this great state of Texas.
Thank you so much. Mr. O'Rourke.
My name is Beto O'Rourke, and it is a huge honor to be with you tonight. I want to thank Mr. Charles O'Neill and Ms. Molly Belt, Mr. Cooper, and everyone who is here and everyone who's watching online right now, because there could not be a more important moment for the future of this state. And it is a moment in which we cannot be found wanting. All of us doing all we can to make sure that we overcome the challenges that we face right now in this state. We have a governor who's taken us to the far extreme end of his party, banning reproductive health care decisions for the women of this state, ignoring police officers and sheriff's deputies, and signing a permitless carry bill that allows anyone to carry a loaded firearm in public in this state, and ignoring the most important issues in front of us, like making sure that we can keep the lights on and that this electricity grid in the power generating capital of North America actually works and works for everyone. If we can get past him, win this race, then there's no stopping the good things that we can do for one another, like making sure that the best jobs in the United States of America are created right here in the state of Texas, that we focus on making sure that our public schools are world class, and regardless of your zip code, your income, or any differences between us, you have the best chances at the best outcomes in your life. And then moving forward on common sense solutions that Republicans, Democrats, independents, people all across the state of Texas can agree on, like making sure that we expand Medicaid so that more people can see a doctor, we bring more money into our communities, and we lower our property tax bills, or legalizing marijuana so that we no longer put people behind bars for possession of a substance that is already legal in most of the rest of this country. We can do these great things if we win this incredibly important election. And I'm here today to ask for your support and your vote in this effort.
Mr. O'Rourke, you take the first question. This one is personal to me because Texas has the largest black population among the 50 states. and we have a governor and a legislature, a state government, that appears to not only disregard us, but to work actively against my interests. How do we change that, and how will you change?
You're absolutely right in the description of the problem. And there's so many different areas that we can point to right now and measure the consequence and the cost of a governor who is working against his own people. Right here in the state of Texas, we're at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis that is 3 times as deadly for black women in the state of Texas. Now, it didn't just happen this past year. It's been going on ever since Greg Abbott has become governor. As more reproductive health care clinics close, it is harder not only to get an abortion, but it's harder to get a cervical cancer screening or reproductive health care help or to see a doctor of any kind. And that's why we're losing people in this state faster than almost anywhere else. It's also in Texas where in a kindergarten classroom, a black child is 5 times as likely to be punished, suspended, or expelled as a white child for the same infractions in front of the same teacher. That school to prison pipeline that we so often hear about begins not in high school or middle school, but when those kids are 5 years old and absolutely defenseless against the systemic racism that we still have, not just in our criminal justice system, but all too often in our systems of education. We need to understand these issues so that we can correct them, so that we can overturn the governor's ban on reproductive health care, for example, and focus on that maternal mortality crisis to help the women of Texas survive and to thrive going forward. We need to make sure that there's not just equality but equity in our classrooms, and we need to specifically look at what it will take to hire more black men to be in those classrooms so that there's representation in every part of public life in this state. And lastly, we need to make sure that state resources in this 9th economy on planet Earth flow everywhere in this state, and that we create opportunity not just where opportunity has always been, but precisely where it has been found wanting. That's how we see the greatest growth and equal opportunity for all in the state of Texas going forward.
Mr. Cooper. Same question.
All right, great. Well, it's amazing. My daughter, she proposed this statement to me when you're talking about Black lives. And I wasn't even familiar with Black Lives Matters back when George Floyd was killed, murdered in front of plain daylight. Well, I was invited to speak in Vidor, Texas, where we all know is known as a sundown town. If you're from Dallas, you've probably driven that way to go to Louisiana. I stood on the stage where they burned the cross late 90s. In 1992, you can Google on CNN, they said if a black man is walking down the street in Vidor, Texas, we will kill him. That was said. But you can also Google and you'll find Michael Cooper going to a place where he's not welcome, was not welcome, and they said, it's a setup, don't go there. Don't go there, they're gonna kill you, they're gonna assassinate you in broad daylight. And because of that, I went anyway. I went because black lives really do matter. Why is that? Because I happen to be a black man that grew up in this skin, and I'm comfortable in it. And I learned how to work with other folks that don't look like me, so that means that I know how to get things done with Anglo-Republican men that's running the great state of Texas right now. They have a heart, but we just need to penetrate that heart. We need to go there and show love first. And that's what I did in Vidor, Texas. And I stood on the stage and the man challenged me. He said, but my life mattered too. I said, but my daughter told me to tell you this, that when my house is on fire, that you better make sure that you call the fire department for my house. And right now, my people, we're on fire right now. It's not just the women that's dying after they give birth in the state of Texas. It's not just me. It's all of us right now. Black and brown people, we're in trouble. Poor people, we partner with the Poor People Campaign to bring attention to all people with that lives that matter right now. And I told that Anglo man, I said, listen, your life does matter, but right now, don't get mad at me because my house is on fire. And I'm here right now to let you know that my name is Michael Cooper. I'm going to fight to put your fire out.
Stay here for this question. It's kind of a follow-up to that, because one of the things that's most disappointing to me, most disturbing to me is while all of these attacks on my rights are going on, I'm being asked to pay for that government to abuse me, so to speak. One of the things I do in my other hat is I work for black business owners in the state of Texas. and our state government, after 40 years of enabling legislation, manages somehow to spend 1% of its procurement, goods and services, with black-owned businesses. I think that's criminal. So what would you do to address this glaring disparity in our presence in the population, our presence in ready, willing, and able businesses ready present themselves to do business with our state, and our results after 40 years of legislation to cure that problem? We're at 1%.
Brother Charles, it's amazing that you asked that question. It's almost like you wrote it for me. I work with the Black Chambers in Southeast Texas, which is also in Harris County. I work with my local chambers. I'm also on the diversity for the chambers. I have many hats. You know, there's so many backgrounds that I have: master's in psychology, working on a PhD. But I never sleep but 4.5 hours a night because I'm up thinking about those kind of things, Brother Charles. And so what I've been working with is some of those chambers leaders to make sure that they, and you're probably familiar with this, is that they are certified DBE ready, because there's Build Back Better money that's coming down, $1.9 trillion coming down. And if we do not have African-American companies in position ready to receive that money is going to be marked and earmarked for someone else. There's a new minority out there, and I'm okay with Hispanics, I'm okay with females, but there are still African-American minority groups. Matter of fact, I'm from the automotive industry. In 2006, there was an issue where President Obama and all of them, they had to bail out General Motors, they had to bail out Chrysler, but there were some companies they didn't have to bail out. I worked for both of those companies, Toyota and Ford. We did good business, but we had to bail them out. But nobody bailed out the minority black man and woman that had a automotive business in the state of Texas. I'm sorry, not just state of Texas. In the United States, there were 800. Now we're down to 300. Now they're building those dealerships back. And those dealerships are not coming back as African-American dealerships. They're just known as a different form of minority. Let me be clear on this, is that we need to train our people right now, make them ready to receive the Build Back Better money in the state of Texas. And if we don't have them DBE certified and ready to go, we're going to miss that money, and they're going to rewrite the way that they disperse the money. So I'm telling you right now, you need to recoup your businesses and your paychecks with Coop.
Thanks so much. Mr. O'Rourke, same question.
I'd like to build on what Mr. Cooper just said, because so much of it made so much sense to me. We have to make sure that we're ready for these opportunities when they come through. We also have to make sure that we're cognizant of the problem in the first place. And you pointed out, Mr. O'Neill, that we're spending less than 1% on businesses that should be just as competitive as any other business in the state of Texas, a state government which spends more than $120 billion a year throughout this state. It is creating wealth and opportunity and jobs in the process. Let's make sure that those are distributed throughout the state. Again, regardless of your income, regardless of any other difference between us, that is clearly not happening right now. I had the chance recently to talk to the county judge of Fort Bend County, KP George. He is the first non-Anglo elected to that position in the history of Fort Bend County. And he's making sure that there are opportunities now for one of the most diverse counties in the United States of America. And it begins with a disparity study so that we understand where county money is being spent in Fort Bend. Let's use that model in the state of Texas and really make sure that we understand, measure, and quantify the problem so that we can fix it going forward. Like Mr. Cooper, I want to make sure that independent mom and pop business owners have every opportunity to compete, to succeed, and to create more jobs in their community. And to also acknowledge the fact that there's been a structure in Texas in place for a long time that has helped some at the expense of others. And as Mr. O'Neill says, all of us pay taxes and support that system. Let's make sure that that system supports and creates opportunity for everyone in the state of Texas. Last thing, I do want to make sure, as I echo again Mr. Cooper's comments about voting rights, that when we talk about our government and how our government spends, that everyone has an equal opportunity to choose who that government is and who represents them and how their voice will be heard. Voting rights is connected to economic rights. That's why it's also a priority of mine in this campaign.
And I'll set this one up and just give you a good chance to just punch the incumbent again, because about 3 weeks ago, Governor Abbott sent a letter to every agency head, 164, I think, state agencies, directing them not to apply for federal funds. You referenced Build Back Better, because federal funds come with strings attached with them. I heard that as federal funds must be distributed fairly. And he is saying, let's not do that. That's crazy, because it's not that we're getting money from the federal government, it's money that's returned to the state of Texas. How do you put that into someplace that makes sense?
This rejection of federal funds that, as Mr. O'Neill said, are our funds to begin with. We are all federal taxpayers. We've all paid into that. This is money that is being distributed across the country and is being refused right now by our governor. These are resources that could go into our schools, they could fix our bridges, they could extend broadband in big cities and rural communities alike. And we are either sitting on it or rejecting it wholesale. And this is not an anomaly. This is the pattern and practice of this governor so far. For example, Governor Abbott has left $100 billion of Medicaid expansion money on the table, refusing to take yes for an answer, especially at a time where initially the federal government was going to pay 100 cents on the dollar of expansion, then 95 cents. The current offer is 90 cents. Still pretty good. If that money were to come into Dallas County, for example, it could add hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy, connect more doctors with patients, ensure that we no longer have people dying of diabetes, of the flu, and curable cancers here in the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world in the 21st century. And it could also lower property taxes, because we'll no longer have to fund uncompensated care at the county hospital district level. This is not about Democrats. This is just common sense. And because the governor will not follow it, he is hurting the people of this state. His incompetence in this case, his corruption when it came to the grid, his inability to meet the deadliest pandemic of the last 102 years has made Greg Abbott one of the leading causes of death in the state of Texas right now. It is urgent that we change course and that we replace this person in this position of power and public trust with someone who will focus on the well-being of every Texan. And where we have an opportunity to draw down dollars and partnerships, including and maybe especially from the federal government, let's take that opportunity.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Cooper, same question.
Same question.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's amazing. We have a governor that has decided to give back hundreds of millions of dollars to the federal government. He's already proven that he doesn't want anything to do with federal money, but we know that our budget is maxed out here in the state of Texas. We can move some things around. As the legislature decided to make cannabis legal, and I want all the revenue to go towards education, of course. But at the same time, we have money that we can get assistance. There were $2 billion that the governor sent back last year that he didn't spend because he didn't see fit to give it to African American communities to keep people assisting with renters assistance, keep the lights on. He can care less because he has friends that's escaping the state of Texas, going somewhere else. But that's a whole nother statement. So we need to make sure that we hold him accountable by electing him out of the seat this term. We need to make sure that we say no to bullets. We need to push back and say we need our money here in the state of Texas. Matter of fact, where I'm from in Port Arthur, Texas, I'm from Beaumont, Texas actually, but 18 miles up the street, Port Arthur, Texas, he kept $5 million of money from that area because the superintendent, the mayor decided to put masks on, have mandates, get vaccinations to open up schools. But we have a bully that is just pushing us around in the state of Texas, especially African American people. Up here in Dallas, you know something about what he did. He showed you that he did not care about you because he appointed a guy from your school board here in Dallas, Texas. Let me give you his name, Mike Morath. He's your education commissioner. And he has failed the state of Texas. We're 47 out of 48 right now. How in the world can we be big bag Texas? Don't mess with Texas. But he's messing up our education system. We have an issue in Texas. His name is Greg Abbott. He must go. Boy, I wish you were in this room with me right now. I feel a chant coming on. He must go. Greg Abbott must go. There's some people in here chanting with me. But anyway, I'm going to leave them alone. I need your help. My name is Michael Cooper.
Last question then we're going to roll this into your closing statement. Top priorities, should you be elected? Top priorities upon assuming office, and then roll into your closing statement.
Thank you for that. Right now, my platform is education. A vote for Michael Cooper is a vote for your children, a vote for yourself, and for all Texans. Y'all, I happen to be African American, but at the same time, I represented everybody. I grew up in the South. You have to. You can't just represent one group because I'm a minority for sure in the South. So at the same time, we need to make sure we push education forward. We need to grow our own school teachers. We need to make sure that they have a livable wage. If you divide, my wife is a retired school teacher. She's here with me today, had a stroke, TIAs, everything else. 27 years, she had to sit it down. We struggled for a while, but that's okay because our children are worth it. The education system is where we need to put all of our focus at, and we need to give the attention to it. Listen, some people might say, well, who is this guy? Where does he come from? I'm glad you asked that question. I've been living for 56 years, and 35 of those years, I have been fighting for the folks in Southeast Texas as a civil rights worker, as president of NAACP. I wear several hats, pastor, giving out food, taking care of the homeless, giving out water. I don't always put it on camera, but we do the work. That's what we need to do. Education is the key. Grow our own school teachers and make sure that they go to a state-funded school, hopefully HBCU school also. We need to give funding to our schools, our HBCU schools. We can't fail with those schools. The other thing we need to do is make sure that we have the expansion of Medicaid and have a program for that. Inbox me at www.cooper2022.com because I have more details. 34 seconds will not cut it because that's how much time I have left. Because I need to talk to you about making sure that we have medical insurance in the state of Texas. There's some places in the state of Texas, they're doing it right. But I want to make sure that we do it for all Texans. When's the last time you've been to a fancy restaurant? You saw a menu. Well, guess what? When you go to ER, they don't show you a menu. You get it 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and you find out you spent $70,000. And you said, man, if I'd known that scalpel was $10,000, I would have asked you to bring it home because you know that you do it when you go to the hotel. Some of you got the towels. My name is Michael Cooper. I'm out of time.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Rourke. And the question was top priorities, should you be elected, and the closing statement.
One of the last times that I saw Michael Cooper was walking from Georgetown, Texas to Austin, Texas to march for, walk for, call attention to the need for voting rights in this state. We are the hardest state in the country in which to cast a ballot. Now that's not right. It's not right for Democrats. It's not right for independents. It's not right for Republicans. There are men and women who have given their lives for this democracy in uniform, storming the beaches of Normandy, 1944, fighting fascism to protect democracy at home. There are men and women who marched for it in the 50s and 60s at the risk of their own lives, and some lost their lives to push the Texas president, LBJ, to sign the Voting Rights Act of 1965 into law. We are coming very close to losing that, which so many have served and sacrificed to obtain in the first place. I want to make sure that in Texas, if you are a citizen and you are eligible, there is no obstacle in your way to casting that ballot and having a voice in this democracy and deciding who it is that represents you. Because I'm confident that if we do that, then the big priorities of this state, I agree with Mr. Cooper on public education and getting behind those public school educators, that we become #1 in the nation for the quality of public schools. That we ensure that the best jobs created in America are found right here in the state of Texas, and everyone has a chance to compete for them. And that we move forward on the things that make all the common sense in the world, that don't need to divide us or keep us polarized or pitted against each other, like expanding Medicaid so that people can see a doctor and be well enough to pursue their potential. These are the things that we can do if we choose to come together. And that is why I'm asking for your support and your help, your vote, and your willingness to volunteer to make sure that we can win this election, take on Greg Abbott, defeat him, and get this state on the right track. Thank you very much, and thank you again to Mr. O'Neill and to Ms. Molly Belt and to Mr. Cooper.
Thank you so much. Our candidates for governor of the state of Texas, Mr. Michael Cooper, Mr. Beto O'Rourke. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Monday Night Politics. We look to see you next Monday, Valentine's Day. We understand that it's Valentine's Day, but come out and show some love to your candidates running to support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.